help me, and we'll get this meeting adjourned. We'll get this meeting adjourned. It's just a hair after 5:30, and or not adjourned, but we'll get it started. We'll and we'll. I'm ready to adjourn if you guys aren't. No, we'll open this meeting, and I guess do we open with the pledge? You guys want to open with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah,
Sure.
I can do roll call really quick and then we can do the pledge. How's that?
Okay,
Sounds good.
go ahead,
Okay.
Sherry.
All right. Natasha Atkinson. I don't see her. She said she may be logging on a little bit late. She's traveling, so. Jim DeLapp.
Here.
Okay. Ashley Hicks. Don't see her. Kat Stone. Here. Todd Vaughn.
Here.
Greg Kennerly.
Here.
And then John Esteele
Here.
and Michaela Hammerson.
Here.
Okay, perfect. All right, somebody want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? We can do it
Sure,
here, so you guys can mute yourself if you want. I can lead us if we want.
Yep. Let's
Go
do
ahead.
it.
All right. Pledge allegiance to the
The
flag,
flag.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for
Justice
all.
for all. Amen.
Perfect. Okay, so I have the consent agenda from the April 23rd, 2025 meeting. Did you guys all get a chance to see them? We didn't make any, the only thing we did is we motioned to have a chair and a vice chair. We presented the budget, but no recommendations were made at that time. Do I have a motion from anybody to accept the 4/23/2025 draft budget committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded?
John.
John? Okay. And then I do have included the second budget committee meetings, which were minutes, which were not anything because we did not have a quorum, so the meeting was rescheduled to today. Do I have a motion to approve the April 30th, 2025 budget committee?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Did everybody get a copy of the budget, proposed budget that I sent out?
Is that the one you emailed?
Yep.
Yeah,
there,
I believe I've got one in front of me. Is it resolution number 2502?
I believe so. Let me make sure of that. Yes.
Okay.
So, that, I'm gonna bring it up here in a minute and put it on the screen, but
Oh, you're
there
perfect.
have been some changes to that, even just this afternoon. I got the final numbers from our medical and dental, carrier. They had given me kind of an idea of what to expect, but it came in slightly higher. And then when I was entering this stuff into the budget, I noticed that they had it calculated at a 15%. That was to the employees, and I think 2 years ago, Cheryl changed that to be 20%. So I had to have them recalculate that. So with that being said, I'm gonna bring up, I'm gonna share my budget with you guys. Where is my little share screen? There it is. And we are going to share this one. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So the budget that I sent out, we were to the good, $13,000. And with the changes to the medical dental vision, we are to the red. We are in the red, $9,266.
Oh,
So that is some discussion that you all need to have, and I'll let you guys have your discussion. Anybody have any questions? Do you want to see, now I did highlight some areas where we have a little bit of wiggle room, and I highlighted right here, this is the fringe benefits, so this is where the changes came. So from what we had, from what I sent you to what you're seeing now was on the admin portion, this is just admin employees, it was a $4,200 difference. In operations, which is all of our bus drivers, it was a $7,700 difference. Operations admin was $1,800 difference and some change. Our paratransit drivers, it was $1,963 difference. Our demand response didn't have any change because none of them have, any family members, it's the employees only. And then on the call center, they had a $6,400 difference. So that's where the changes came. Now we do have some wiggle room, under admin. I had 5,000 in for advertising. I was hoping Ben would be on tonight and we could discuss it. And then I do have non-capital equipment purchases. I always try to budget in some money into these areas in case, we have to buy somebody's computer crashes, or, we have some small equipment purchase that we need to do for the building. But so this is under admin only. So under each of these categories, operations, ops, admin, paratransit, I have some additional money in each one of those categories that we have some fudge room with. One of the other areas is travel for training. That's not very much I have budgeted here, but there is some travel for training that I have budgeted. I can go through, do you guys want me to go through each tab and just kind of show you the wiggle room areas?
Or does anybody have any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Anybody have any thoughts?
I think it's a prudent thing to put stuff in, because like you said, something comes up, and if you don't have the money designated, you can't move it, and that's what
Right.
the problem was before.
Now-
So having the wiggle room is a very good thing.
Now, this budget also does include $5,000 a quarter to ODOT, which I know Jennifer is online. I know that that's, not what they want to see, but that was already building in at least 20,000. I think ODOT would like to see a little more, but at this point, with just the 20,000, we still got to figure out some areas to. Anybody?
I have a lot of comments, but I want you guys to comment. before
I'll
I
go through the
get to
tabs
it.
and you guys can see some of the numbers. And so under operations, I've got some training, 5,000. I've also got some non-capital equipment built into here, 4,000. This one I highlighted the 1,500 for uniforms because my ask was we would like to go with Cintas with our uniforms for the drivers. We've been purchasing them, and a lot of the drivers' shirts they've had them for a long time. And Cintas, if we take, say, 1,000 from this non-cap and put it into this fund, we can afford to go with Cintas where we're basically leasing the shirts, but anytime they rip one or one gets dirty or, they just get washed beyond,
They're not gonna replace them, they're fine.
well, they will replace them. at no additional charges, so we can
No.
budget it, figure out what it's gonna be,
Okay.
and then the drivers, you know, if someone gains weight and they need bigger shirts, or loses weight and wants smaller shirts, they will replace them and do all of that. Plus, we don't have any uniforms with the new logo on them. So this would give us an opportunity to do that, but it would mean a little bit extra. It's about an $800 difference from what I am seeing. So we would need probably, I was just gonna ask for 1,000 from this non-cap equip to the uniform. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. The operations admin tab. We've got 2,800 for training, and we've got some travel and mileage and things in there for training. And then 2,500 in the non-cap.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
For non-capital equipment purchases, so
Mhm.
like for what we're looking at right now, you have $2,500 in there for that.
Mhm.
So what happens in the course of a year when one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden you need $4,500 for non-cap purchases, and you only got 2,500 allocated here? What's the mechanism that you use to fund those additional non-capital purchases you didn't account for? Is there a way to move money from one pot to another without any penalty and all that?
There isn't, if we are under budget in a category and slightly over in another, on another, you know, like under operations or under para. As
Mhm.
long as we are not going over our budget for the whole year for everything. These non-caps, I could, you know, we could move money from operations to operations admin.
Okay, so what you're
Yes.
saying, I think what you're saying, which makes me feel better, is that you have latitude to move money all around pretty much any way you want, as long as you don't exceed the overall budget. Is that another?
Correct,
That's just kind of the,
Mostly,
mostly,
yeah,
yes,
mostly,
yes.
correct.
Mostly correct, exactly.
so
That's why I just build it into each one, so that it comes to about $12,000 for the year for all the non-cap equipment purchases. For, if you add them up across the board of all the tabs.
I was just trying to
So-
think of the one purchase I thought about in operations was, and maybe you've already done this, is the radios, the radio purchases. Isn't
The
that
radios are already done, so
okay?
we purchased new radios, when we got all the new vans, so in the end of 2023, we replaced all the radios, and the radios that we received were a digital radio, and when Silky installed them for the tune of, I don't know, like $80,000 or something. The digital frequency was interfering with the first responders out here in
Oh, okay.
Roseburg. And they basically shut down like our signal, and our radios were not functioning. But we have
Sounds-
gotten them fixed. Silky has replaced all those radios because we threw a big fit with them and, you know, said, hey, we just paid you for all these new radios and they're not working, like our drivers need to communicate. And so they admitted that the digital frequencies, which we were one of the first agencies to go with the digital frequency, was interfering with the first responders and they had to shut us down. So that has
So-
been resolved. So we don't have any additional radio purchases that we need to make. All of that equipment was just replaced again, just in the last month.
Yeah, okay. I was just curious how how the accounting worked and all that. And,
Yeah,
Oh.
these I just put in here, like I said, in case somebody's computer crashes and we gotta get a new computer, or, you know, our
Yeah.
copy machine dies and it's not, repairable, or,
Seems
just-
like I've seen that number there before.
yeah. Under the paratransit, we've got, some small training. We've only got 3 paratransit drivers, so this bucket for them, for their material and services is usually pretty small. So I wouldn't recommend taking anything out of theirs. Demand response has about 5 drivers. But we also have this transportation contract is the Reedsport, our Reedsport drivers and the contract that we have funds for. Well, that we're going to have funds for. We do have funds for them now, but we've kind of, drained them already, almost. We're using our
Okay.
stiff funds to get them through the end of this year. So, this has to stay, it's a big number. I moved it from, Cheryl had it under operations, but it really is a demand response service. So I felt it was more appropriate to list it under our demand response, category.
Okay.
So that's why theirs looks pretty big. Call center, they've only got 1,500 and 500 in training. And then our medical transport, hold on, sorry, I clicked too far. Okay. The NEMT program, it basically is our call center supervisor who kind of manages the drivers for that, and the rest of this is all volunteer drivers. But I usually our employee appreciation events, I usually budget it here because we really can't spend federal funds and state funds on parties or gift cards for them at Christmas or Thanksgiving. So, we budgeted out of our NEMT funds. So we have some wiggle room there. And that is about it. The rest of it is, the rest of the tabs this is our building payments every year, so we cannot do anything with that. And we have nothing under our bus replacement at this point. And we have nothing under, we've got the 20,000 for ODOT right here.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What's that 20,000 for?
Repayment of the
Electric charger.
the electric charging stations, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sherry, are all of these things that you've highlighted in yellow?
These are all buckets that we have a little bit of wiggle room.
Okay, so that's and so you started off this conversation by talking about a $9,300 deficit.
Yep.
Right? So
Yes.
you want to fund that deficit with a little bit of money from all these yellow boxes. Is that
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. I'm just
necessarily.
telling you based off of all the other categories that are not highlighted are all based off of our actual expenses. So we are already actually spending all these other amounts. We are not spending right now, but I've added it in there because we have had some advertising in the past that we've done. And I don't know what Ben's plans are for the future, with advertisement.
Okay.
But we do have, it's open for all your discussion, so.
I have comments. I spent part of the afternoon watching the town hall and I found it really interesting what I could hear. The sound wasn't that good. But I heard some misconceptions about how the money is spent that comes from the taxes. And every person in Douglas County that gets a W-2 pays into the transportation fund and money comes back based on the population of the community. So we don't have I-5 County and we don't have Roseburg County. We have every community like Tiller and Glendale and all those places that should be receiving a benefit from the money that we have. Now, I'm the person who says the hard things. We have $200,000 that appears to be going out of the county. And Ben said, I heard said that he is the permanent CEO. And I don't know that, he said also that he got the job done in 6 months. He had everything set up and then you guys were all doing the work that needed to be done. I like that. I would like for Ben to take a severe cut in pay. And I don't know this other person from Adam, but they are making another $100,000 and they don't live here either. They aren't contributing to our economy. And I don't know, you guys are busting your butt down here in the office. And I don't know what they're doing that hasn't been set in order that can just be taken care of now. We can cut it off. Or we can taper it way back. But we would regain over $200,000. And we wouldn't be in the red anywhere. And you guys, the budget committee and the board are working for free as volunteers. So I don't know why they can't work as volunteers too, if they really care. I don't know why we're paying $200,000, over $200,000 to go to Portland when we need that money. It was paid for by our taxpayers to be here to support our transportation and the lesser among us and the smaller communities as well. It shouldn't go to Portland. And they don't ever intend to move here, is what I heard. So that is my feeling about what the budget has in it that can be cut. And I probably said it a little too more excitedly than I should, but I'm not known to be really underspoken or mildly spoken. So that's my thinking, and I just wanted to put it out there because if I don't, I'm not doing my job to the people of the community with the money that they paid in. I'm
Can I-
leaving the floor.
Can I be recognized, Chair Vaughn?
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
go
Michaela.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for that comment, and I do appreciate what you're saying. I want to provide a little bit of context, but I also don't want this conversation to get off track because the purpose of this committee isn't to decide who's working for UPTD. The purpose of this committee is just to designate where we want to put money. But just for a little bit of context into hiring a CEO, general manager for UPTD. There were quite a few applicants both times that applied, and many of these people came from other transit districts. And if you look up, I'm not going to provide too much information because it was done in executive session, but if you look up how much these people are getting paid at other transit districts, it is exceptionally higher than what we're paying, number one, which is crazy, but it's true. Then the other thing is that these people who applied also were, some of them were working for multiple transit districts. They were not working in person. There were people that were applying from out of state. And so there is sort of a common theme in transportation districts, it seems like, where people either work more than one job, work for more than one transit district at a time, and aren't necessarily in the direct area that they are managing a transportation district. So I just want to put that out there because it's something that hasn't, I don't think, been discussed publicly, but those are some common themes in the transportation arena. And like I said, I don't want to get off track too much because that's not really what our job is here today. It's to decide where we're going to put the money, but it's very unlikely that we are going to be making significant changes to the budget for the CEO because then we wouldn't be able to hire anybody to do the job. That's just my feeling.
I would be remiss if I didn't say what I thought about how the money was being spent. And I have to
Yeah.
get it out there. But I do want to say I support you for County Commissioner, Michaela. And
Oh, I'm not running for
I
commissioner.
I would really like to see you do that.
Oh, yeah.
Totally, totally.
Uh,
And I would like to just ask Kat a question. Is your point in regard to Ben, and I'm assuming you're talking about George, is your point that they are earning income that leaves the county? Is that what you're saying, Kat? I just trying to clarify it in my
Yes.
mind.
Yes, Todd, yes, yes, if we had someone that lived here and spent the money here. I would feel much better about it because it supports the communities where the money came from, because everybody who gets a W-2 is paying for our transportation. And I just don't
Okay.
like the idea of our money going to Portland. So,
Yeah, I totally respect that.
Michaela makes a
I just
good
really
point.
was trying to understand. I was trying to understand if that's what your point was, and I kind of thought it was. But I will say again, I don't know, I'm not really chairing this meeting very well, but because I don't have all the information Sherry does, and she's the important one to really tap into today. But I would say, if it's not offensive, as I'm supposed to be chairing this meeting, I would say that I also was on the hiring committee. And there, a lot of our applicants were actually contractors. It was a really common theme that people were working for one or two other districts. So it's kind of surprising. And also the salaries that we were looking at, the salary that we will be paying Ben and George. I don't know whether we looked at any other compliance officers, but I certainly saw a number of applicants that had been operations officers, and they were all pretty much all making over 120,000 a year. I mean, there were some that were as much as 140,000 a year. These are not really outrageous salaries in today's world, although for some of us who have never made that money, me included, much money, me included, they seem like a lot of money. But this is, none of these salaries are outside a normal range. If you
Well,
look
that's
it up.
true. That's true. I work as a contractor fundamentally, and I make a good salary. But when I am hired as a contractor, it is not with the idea of permanence. I am there to make sure that they have everything in order. Everything is the way it should be, and then I train the person that is supposed to be there permanently and that lives in the community. There is not any open-ended contract for me when I work as a contractor. When you're good at what you do, they bring you in and they pay you good money to get it done. But you don't
Yep.
just hang in there. They can't afford you.
Yeah.
They can't afford to pay me that big salary. And
You know,
I'm
that-
happy.
It's interesting.
I think that we can't afford to not have somebody that is actually able to move the organization ahead. We need to move into areas where we have more discretionary money available. That's why we're kind of up against it tonight, because we have very little discretionary income. And this is kind of what our hopes are, that Ben's skill set will actually begin to generate through advertising and some other concepts that he has, will begin to generate some discretionary money that makes this very budget process that we're into tonight much easier on us than, in the future, because we're just working with, fixed amounts tonight, and we don't have very much wiggle room, as Sherry's pointed out. So I think that these positions are important. Certainly George's position is very important for us to get back in compliance, which Ben and him and Sherry and everybody did very well. And now that we're moving ahead, the board is definitely hoping to expand our income and revenues that we have to spend in other areas other than just the state funding. So I would like to just point that out in case you had
And I
thought about
just
that.
think that we need to have our eye on the rearview mirror and be thinking about what's coming up as
You know,
we move forward.
I
And
think what
I'm
Jennifer,
not on the board and here I am trying to tell you what I think as
Hey,
a
Kat,
board
we
member.
appreciate you. We want to hear what you
And-
have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's what we're here to do.
Jennifer, what you're saying really strikes home to me because of the people that I talk to in my neck of the woods, which is the North County. In other words, we all get all of our W-2s get hit for a little transportation money. Everybody does, right? But we don't get any service, none from the transit. A good part of the county gets no service, and there are people that bring that up and say, do something about it. Yes, okay, that to me is really important, and so part of your argument I like, but I'm not sure I like it in terms of hiring people. That the requirement is it going to be a requirement that we hire people that live in the county?
Understand.
No such requirement, but
And there isn't that kind of a requirement, but there is that kind of a morality and an ethics.
yes,
And that's what you do as a board, is that you think about your constituents, the people that live in your community, and whether you are providing that service as efficiently. Now, Michaela says we're not here to hire or fire. And I'm not saying that we
Nope.
need to fire anybody. I'm just saying that, yes, that's a lot of money. And Ben said the word permanent, and I don't know George. And there's an Andre too, or I think, and so I just
Operations, yep.
think we could, what?
There is,
There's an Andre,
Andre's
okay.
operations, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
and I just think that we really need to be forward, future thinking about providing those services and not sending the money to Portland. And it doesn't mean that they aren't worth the money right now, but we have to start looking at weaning ourselves off. They are great with the intent and the knowledge. But like I said, when I go to do a job, when I go to rescue a facility, I set up good processes. I give them good systems. And then I start training the people that are gonna take over each of those positions. And I'm not meant to be there permanently. And I didn't like hearing permanent. Important.
So I
Well,
just have a
I
couple,
would say that, excuse me for just 1 second. I would say, that the word permanent is very interpretive, even if, as Ben using that word, I seen that word in a newspaper article too. So I hear what you're saying. The use of that word is simply a term in distinction from interim. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Ben's
Okay.
not going to be Ben is not going to be the permanent CEO for Umpqua Watersheds. I can guarantee you that. That is not even Ben's intention. From having talked to him, there's no
Now, I
permanent.
got that impression that he wasn't planning on moving here and fighting fires or anything like that. So I just want us to be very mindful, and we don't have to pay these amounts. These are a place that we can trim the budget and give ourselves some stuff. I just think that if they care about the district, as they say they do, that they could step up and maybe take a cut. And that's for us to consider. I'm not saying we fire them. It's just because Sherry didn't highlight them, didn't mean that I didn't see them as items that could be changed. So,
and I just also want to let you guys know, because Michaela and John are new to the process, and we did go over this in the very first meeting. So the budget is built with a 3% COLA increase across the board. I really don't, my opinion is that I don't want to take that away from the drivers, because the drivers haven't had an increase in 2 years.
Mhm.
But, and then there also is, I will bring up another sheet. if we went back to where the district was only paying 15% of, so the district pays 100% of the employee cost of their benefits. And we have 11 individuals out of the 38 that, or the 36, that have family coverage. And UPTD pays, they pay 15% and UPTD pays 85% of their premium for their family. Well, actually, we're paying 20 right now. So if we went back to the original 15%, which is how UPTD started out, where the employee pays 20% and we pay 80%, that would give us a savings of $9,763, which might bring us to the black, but then we just have no, we still have no unappropriated funds left.
And my feeling is you're putting that on the working,
And then you're putting it on the workers, exactly.
on the working man.
So those were just some areas that I wanted to make sure you knew and you understood and you just for you to
Yeah.
chew on.
Yeah.
So I know that last year, we did not want to put any burden on the employees. I would really like to not do that again and at least give them a COLA. I'd be willing not to take my COLA. I wouldn't care, but I don't.
And one of our founding things was that we wanted to be one of the best employers.
Right, I know that
in
the
the
benefit
county.
package was a big deal.
And I think that we keep people if we take care of people. And that's just always been one of the hard things for me.
Any other input, any suggestions? Do you want to see me change anything and see how that affects the bottom line?
Well, I'd say you have to go through this process, and one of the things that Jennifer brought up is valid, if to be considered.
Yeah.
But we should prioritize some sort of prioritization of what's important and what's not, and what's not important is gonna have to lose some funds. So there's a lot of things there that we've seen, and I don't know whether we're going to be able to take care of that in this meeting, but maybe we all study the spreadsheets and come back with a prioritization, 1 to N. What's the most important thing? Shouldn't touch it, and go through these different buckets of money, and include if we want to include what Jennifer elucidated for personnel issues, that could be one of the things that we go through, and maybe attach a priority to reducing salaries of individuals. I don't know. I mean, we got to kind of go through that as a part of the exercise, So my opinion would be for us to study this and make a list of priorities. And if we all agree to the buckets of money that we're looking at, the yellow colors, and then the others, any other employee salary issues is a secondary thing, which is fine. And I think it's valid to do that. Then we come back and we have to sort it out. How many of us think that that is important, and work through the process. Now,
And
I'm
that's
worried.
exactly what the process is
I'm worried about the timeline. I don't. I know that this is kind of time critical, and whether or not we have enough time to do that elaboration, it's up to Todd and Michaela.
We would have to have another meeting Monday or Tuesday to discuss further if we want to meet the legal notice, be able to post a legal notice for the budget hearing that meets the requirements. and we've already pushed the board meeting back 1 week already to try, so that we could try and meet that deadline, but if we
It's
don't.
simply a suggestion and, no, people don't have to agree with it, with what it.
Yeah, and I'm just letting you all know where we're at with that process, so.
I thought there was this critical timeline we're working with too, so, I'd be willing to listen to other, avenues of approach. That's just
Well,
something.
we could set up 3 meetings in a row and give the public the notice that they need, and then we don't have to use them all. If it's gonna take 3 days in a row, I'm willing to do that.
So we are basically, this is a suggested, this committee is suggesting a budget with the input of everybody involved here. And ultimately, the board will be looking at all these things and actually voting on a budget. And it won't necessarily be the same as what this committee is suggesting. So I think
just
we
made the
should,
recommendation.
yes. So I think that what we should do, because of the timing issues and stuff, is just go ahead and put forth a budget tonight that actually gets us in the black. And as a board, we will look more closely at where we think we can make more cuts. But we do need to put out a budget. This committee needs to put out a suggested budget that's in the black. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have to have a balanced budget.
But we don't have to have it under the certain timeline except the timeline that is constructed. So we don't have to do it tonight. And people should be thinking about it because we deal with a lot of money and it's the taxpayers' money. They don't get an option in how much they're putting in. So we're supposed to represent how it goes out. And I think we owe it to them to give them good deliberation.
And I do know that
I would
I
say-
do know that we were wanting to get it to the board this month, but we do still have next month. It's, that's not giving us any additional time. If, they can't come up with a vote for the budget, but in June, it
It's
has
not
to, it has to
race.
be approved by the end, before the end of June. So
Well, I
just
don't think that
throwing-
what we actually need to do, Sherry's actually taken the time to highlight the areas that she believes are, you might say, adjustable. So maybe what we should do tonight, is even if this isn't the final consideration tonight, I think what would be nice to do is if we just went through one by one, looked at a yellow area and said, how much slack could we gain right there? For instance, there's an area of travel mileage and lodging on page 10. The travel mileage is $1,000. The lodging is $2,500. Then there's one area in yellow above it that's training, conferences, fees, certificates. So these areas, I'm assuming, are for our executive officers. I'm assuming that if they're traveling and they're going to be lodging somewhere, I don't think that's for the drivers. I would assume not, but maybe I'm wrong.
Page
And,
6
this
is
is-
for, page 6 is for the administrative team to do travel.
What about 10?
That's in
10.
another tab.
Page 10.
Page 10 is, that's for our operations admin. That's, like the administrative staff downstairs. So, like I said, there is wiggle room there, but I know Michaela has mentioned, this past year that she would like to see some training opportunities for some of the staff, but and that's why I built those in there. So that they,
Oh, I'm not
Some
being
of the
critical
staff-
by any means.
but, right, but that's why.
I'm just saying they are
So-
yellow.
In the hopes, but they are yellow because they're not
In
something that has to be done, so.
in my experience, right now, I'm contracting with a agency that uses a lot of federal funds. And those things that you just suggested, Todd, is what we're cutting in our budget. Is that there will be no trainings, no travels. Because a lot of our money comes from federal and we don't expect to have it.
So what we could do is we could cut the airfare and just keep a little bit under like lodging and mileage for local training. In the state training.
in the
Or-
state.
Or another option is to cut it out completely. And if in fact an opportunity comes up that is significant enough that we really want people to be there, we can either say, hey, look, it's just like, I think Kat, I'm thinking I'm hearing the right voice. I think Kat was suggesting we
Yeah.
should be paying the CEO less money. And well, here you go. You just say, well, we'd love you to go to that, but we're not going to pay for it. You guys are going to actually, if you care enough about UPTD, you're going to have to pay for this travel and lodging out of your own money. I did that with the GOP. Everywhere we went for the state conferences, I had to pay for the rooms and everything out of my own money. And I was a volunteer there too. This is
Been
not
there, done
unheard
that.
of.
So Jennifer
all you-
just
all
had
you-
in, Jennifer had in the comments that the drug and alcohol training this year in Bend is a requirement for our team.
Yeah,
there's
then we
three-
wouldn't,
there's-
that's not, that, go ahead.
Can't we send them in one of the
That's in
buses?
state. We could send them.
And
in
we
one
can
of the
send them in
buses.
one of the buses and they can sleep in it too. I mean,
We
you've
have-
done that, Todd.
We do have three employees that are that are the DAPM and the DERS. For the property, for the district, that will, none of us have had any in-person training with drug and alcohol, so it is a requirement as part of the compliance
Yeah,
issues.
But it doesn't mean.
But
it
it's in
has to-
Bend, so
yeah,
it
it's-
will be
They don't have to
maybe
get on a
2
plane.
overnight stays and
Yeah.
that's it, and mileage, if we don't send them in our own van.
I
We could
think
send them
we
in our
can
own
send
van.
them in our own
And there's
van.
Absolutely.
scholarship for the lodging and the gas and
Yes.
the mileage, so you can
Which-
get scholarship, just food.
I
is
have
the only
already,
thing.
I have already done the scholarships, Jennifer, for the 3, just in anticipation that, we may go, or
Yes,
we will go.
you impressed Tyler by getting it in early, so go Sherry.
Good. Already done it.
Well, again, not to be dismissive of the importance of what we're doing tonight here, I still think that the right approach is it's my opinion. If we're going to ever get this done, because we haven't gained any ground tonight so far, I would say that the way to do this is go yellow tab by yellow tab and go, okay, what is the very most that we can cut out of this category and still be
Okay.
compliant? So I
Everybody-
think that, and then we can go back through, and if we can gain, I'm sure we can gain over 10 grand doing just that. I know we can. I've looked at these yellow categories. There's some, like Jennifer just straightened me out on one, that I don't know exactly what the details are. But when you look at all of them, I'm sure we can nail 10 grand pretty easy. It'll hurt, but anything we take out will hurt, right? I mean, that's the way it works.
Well, if we just agree to take them all out, except whatever Jennifer says we have to keep. I think that, then we meet that goal and we can put it back in later, cause it's gonna go into a spare fund.
Yep. I think so
It
too. So
doesn't-
let's go through it. What page? I got so much paperwork sitting in front of me here. I'm
So you're
confusing
gonna be on-
myself.
You're gonna be on page 6, is the first yellow
6.
box.
All right, let's go
And
to page
this-
6 and go through. Let's go through them. Go ahead.
So this category, page 6, is for our executive team. It falls under admin and admin only. So this does not affect the drivers or anybody else. It's our administrative staff only. So I have
Okay, thank you.
5,000. I have 5,000 under advertising. Like I said, I don't know what Ben's intentions are for putting any advertising out there to the public, but,
Is that gonna include like our fair booths? Is that what that comes out of?
I would imagine so, because we're gonna have all of our transit schedules and, we will be promoting the district there. So I would think that could go there unless Jennifer tells me it cannot.
And then the board can decide on an item by item as
And
it comes up.
that's like $475 or something, I think it is, Michaela. I think I saw the contract for it today.
Something like that. It's between 350 and 475, I think. Depends on where you get your booth at.
I would say at least leave $1,000 in there. That would
Let's
be my
leave 2,000
suggestion,
in
but-
there just to get. Yeah, let's leave a couple grand in there and let's try 3,000 out of that one. Let's take that right there. And we can go back and change
Okay.
it later if we want.
I'm
Because
just
I
gonna
know
put the
there's gonna
number
need to
that
be
I'm
some advertising.
removing. I'm gonna
Yep.
put the number that I'm removing in the box next to it, just in case so we can see what we've done.
I like it. That's
That-
good.
That's perfect. Okay, so then we're going down to non-capital equipment purchases. We don't know what we're going to purchase out of that. We can move money over to that if we need to. But at the same time, I get the whole thing with a little cushion. It's just that we're out of cushion. So can we take anything off that, do you think, Sherry, and still be responsible with these numbers?
I think we should leave at least 2,000 in there. It's just my opinion, but
What's it for?
it's in case we have to replace a computer or somebody's printer or just small equipment purchases that, you know, we don't foresee breaking down or going out on
Maybe-
this, but they might.
Maybe a radio.
It's
Somebody breaks a radio, drops it. I
got
don't know.
brand new ones.
Yeah, that'll be under operations. This is just administrative
Oh,
right
okay,
now.
so I don't
This
think
is just,
In the building.
yep, this
Oh,
is just the admin staff.
you could probably go down to 2,000.
Again, we can move money. We can move money back into this account. We can make we can move a little bit of money around. We know that. So let's go ahead and leave 2,000 in that one too. So that's 6,002 yellow tabs right there, potentially, if we all agree on it that we've got. So let's just leave 2 in that one too. We'll move some money into it if we need to. The recruitment fees, do we use that much recruitment fees every year, Sherry, on the average?
We probably have this year, but we've had a lot of things that we've been posting on Indeed, so
Yeah.
right now, we don't currently have any open positions. So
Uh-huh.
usually Indeed runs us about $150 a month when we advertise for open positions. So,
500.
Let's
then.
take 500 out of that one. Yep, take
Okay.
500 out of that one. Travel, lodging, and travel mileage. Again, these are for the admin team to go places for training and whatnot. Is that correct?
yes,
And we're
And
probably
we know
going to
we
get
have some
reimbursed.
training. Oh, we're
I'm
probably
sorry,
going to get
what?
reimbursed. Jennifer, was that Jennifer? I'm having a hard time
No,
knowing
it's
who's talking.
Michaela.
Michaela.
Oh, okay.
Michaela, go ahead. Michaela, go ahead.
Well, those will be reimbursed once we get the scholarships, as long as people fill out their scholarships. And I think we should just make that a requirement. If you want to go to these trainings, you need to fill your scholarship stuff out. But I don't know how we pay for it in the meantime while we're waiting for reimbursement. That's the only problem with that.
Reimbursements take months to get back, I can just tell you that.
Mhm.
I mean, we can remove the airfare completely and just do in-state only training
Well, we
and
have
leave the
not-
lodging and the mileage.
Since I joined the board, we have
Yeah.
not had anybody fly, to my knowledge. I don't.
Well,
think
because we didn't budget for any flight out of state this year.
Yeah.
So,
I don't
I
see
think we can
airfare
get
here. Where?
people-
What line?
I say 0.
What line is the airfare?
it's on the next page, I think, in your pamphlet.
Line 50.
It goes to the next page. Todd,
Okay. Okay,
You
so
see
we're
it?
talking about the $500. Oh, I get it. I see it there.
Yes.
Oh, that's a
3,000.
big amount. So why don't we go ahead and like break the lodging and mileage each in half? So leave 1,000, take 1,000, leave 750, take 750, and then get rid of the airfare on the next page completely
I would
and
not.
see what
take
we come
that-
up with.
I wouldn't take that much out of, mileage. Maybe lodging.
Mileage, okay.
But the mileage
Leave
was
the
a lot
leave the
last time.
mileage.
Mhm.
Okay, leave
Okay,
the
so
mileage, and how
I-
about the lodging? Would you take anything out of lodging at all, Michaela?
That one's hard too. It
That's-
depends on how many people are going, because you have to think, we have to have some way to pay for this. And the conference is like 3 or 4 nights. And if you have multiple people going, that's, I mean, we've found cheaper hotels, right, Sherry, the last few times? But
Yeah,
the
we
ones
have.
they recommend for you to stay in are like $200 a night, and
Well, absolutely.
They'll
Yeah,
only
you have
reimburse you
people
so
going
much of that.
below that budget.
We don't want anybody to get bed bugs. Is this one of the categories that we were gonna get a scholarship for?
Yeah, but
Yes.
we have to pay for it first.
Okay. So let's go ahead. If you think that we need to leave those, let's leave both of those alone. Let's move to airfare. If we're not gonna do any training out of state, we can save this airfare. That's $3,000. That's
Yeah,
pretty
just
significant.
Mm-hmm.
Cut the three. Is everybody good with cutting the $3,000 airfare?
Yep.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
the 500 the 500 per diem, we're assuming that that means that you got some money so you can buy Snickers bars when you're traveling or something like that. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's for,
Oh, go
it's for
ahead.
meals.
Mhm.
For meals. All
that's
right,
not
well,
very much.
if
for
we need that,
meals.
It's not.
That is pennies.
Mhm.
that's okay. Let's leave that in there then. Okay. So now where are we at now? I got 3 pages that we've looked at. What page are we going to look at next, you guys? 11, page 11. What is it? Let's see.
We're gonna look at page 8.
10,
8.
page 8.
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
nothing.
Page 8, I found it. So what we're talking about is training, conferences, fees, and certificates. I think that we have some trainings for sure on the drug and alcohol we have to go to. We know that. Are there scholarships for any of these, or is this 5,000 pretty solid?
No, we can probably cut that down.
At least in half.
What?
Yeah. I would say you could
All
almost
right.
probably do 2,000.
All right, let's cut that down to 2,000. So 3,000 off of that one. Then the non-capital equipment purchase, again, we definitely are probably going to need some equipment. Now this one actually pertains to our fleet. Is that correct? Or
Yes.
what is this?
Yes, this is
Operations.
operations.
I would leave that one. I just think we know we're going to spend that much money. We've seen enough of this stuff with these old buses. I don't think I would cut that one at all. I mean,
No,
we
repair
can if you guys
parts are
want
not
to.
gonna get any cheaper.
No. So
So
let's
this
just
is
leave that one
where-
for now.
This,
Go ahead.
the one on the screen where I have it orange highlighted, this is the one where I was asking to put an additional at least 800 in here so that we can get the drivers all new uniform shirts with the new logos on them, and a lot of their shirts are pretty old and pretty worn out. So
So
I
that's the
don't know.
non-capital equipment. That's the non-capital equipment purchase.
No, it's under
Uniforms.
Is that the-
uniforms.
Oh,
Uniform.
Right
uniforms,
now,
okay.
there's 1,500, and I was asking, my ask was to bump that up to 2,300.
Okay, just do it then. If you know that we're going to need it, we don't want our drivers to have worn out outfits. I mean, they're the ones that represent us to the public. So that's a pretty obvious thing that we should just figure on doing.
That's a really good
Um,
observation, Todd.
Okay, so now we're gonna go to page 10.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wait, what about the non-capital equipment? Have we all agreed to leave that alone at
4,000?
4,000?
Yeah.
I think parts are not gonna get any cheaper if we have tariffs. And it's gonna be harder to get things to move them around. And they're just not gonna get cheaper. I think we leave it that way and hope that we can float some in later.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we're definitely going to be spending that $4,000. So then we're on page what? Are we on 10?
We're on 10.
9.
We're on 10.
Okay, 10. So we got training conference. We already talked about this a little bit.
This is for the operation admin staff, so like Andre, Cindy, Nakia, Leanna. So
are we
we could probably cut
anticipating
this in.
necessary required training
We
here?
could
Is
probably
this
cut
going
it
to
in
be
half.
okay? So, let's say we can take that at least, let's say at least down to 2,000. That would be almost, that's a little over half we leave in it. So that would be 18 off. Is that good with everybody? Or you
Sounds
want to go,
good.
you want to go
Are
ahead
you
and make
sure
it an
that's what
uneven
you
figure? We
said?
can do that. Yeah,
What
So
did
we
you
could
say?
go-
How much? How much you wanna
we
leave in
could,
it?
we could leave it at 2,000 or we could make it, 19 would be in half. 1,900 would be exactly in half.
Oh, it's 2,800 is what was in there before.
It'd be
Yeah.
1,400 would be
Yeah.
that.
No,
one.
So,
Yeah.
so
I was
Thank you. My
confused.
cipher is a little,
Vegan, I think
my
the man-
cipher is a little off.
1,400.
so Sherry,
Yeah, 14. Go ahead.
part of me is, okay, one of the big criticisms of the board and the district and everything in general is that we have people that need more experience and more training, and we're cutting a lot of that. And my concern is just that if we don't develop people, if we don't give them the institutional knowledge and the opportunity to do that, we kind of sit in the same place. We're not growing, we're not becoming better as a district. And so, Sherry, I would just like to know, like, what does that, is this like thinking about the Seaside Conference, where you do 3 days of training, or is that, what is that budget for?
Yeah, it's just anticipating some of the conferences that would be in Oregon. Generally, they're not that expensive, but we could send some individuals to some of those this year where we haven't sent anybody to anything this year except for the SDAO conference.
So we can borrow the money back. If there are people that need to go.
Yeah, and they're actually really good about giving scholarships. And the one really cool thing is when you apply for it, like we actually had them encouraging us to apply even after the deadline, because there was still more money to give away for that. But I think that they will probably hear our pleas about needing to train up this district, and we probably will get scholarships. I just want to make sure we have the money to be able to front that before we get that reimbursement. And I don't want to let people know that they can't
Okay.
go.
Jennifer put something in the
Yep.
chat. She says that you can get scholarships except for the food. And then she said a lot of classes for line staff are provided by ODOT or National RTAP free of cost. We have all our classes this year that are free and usually virtual, which is true. That's that's why under the operations, our drivers, there is a training bucket here. But, we could lower that on the drivers because a lot of their stuff is online. These, like you said, these would, in the admin categories, would allow some of the managers and things to go to some of the conferences and learn from the people that are
That's
there.
what I'm thinking, like Selena probably needs to go,
Yep.
Andre probably needs to go.
Mhm.
And I don't want those people to be missing out on that, because we need our leaders to be trained up in this stuff,
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
the driver stuff is generally much cheaper or free. But
So maybe
the
we can,
administrative staff is generally not, if you're going to a conference.
so do we want to reduce it more in operations, and then for operations admin, keep it?
That's a discussion for you all to have.
We're getting ahead. We're getting ahead here, Michaela. What do you suggest we leave in this category? What would be your
Well, I'm actually
suggestion,
going
Michaela?
back. I'm not going ahead, I'm going back. I'm saying that in the same bucket in operations, we have 2,000. If we don't need that in there, because those trainings are free, we can remove more of that and allow it where we actually need it, which is in the operations admin. Do you see what I'm
All
saying?
right, so let's just leave it. Let's leave 1,000 in that category. Then Sherry can change the number. And what would you like to see in this category here of training?
I think
What would you
just
like? Do you want to leave it all? You want to leave it
what we
all?
had
Huh?
budgeted for.
2,800.
Do you think so, Sherry? How many people would need to go?
At least two.
And how
At
much?
least for the operations admin. Now Selena falls under call center, so we have a bucket for her under call center as well.
Okay, okay, well then that eliminates one person. So how many people are we actually gonna need to pay for a conference? Or training?
I've only got 500 for Selena, so we could take it out of ops admin a little bit and give
Okay.
her a little more.
There we go.
So you
what
wanna
I-
do
Yeah.
1,800 here and then 1,000.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, and again, we can move money around. None of this stuff's locked in. I mean, we can take and give where we need to. We're talking nickels and pennies in the focus of this whole budget right now. So, but we need to do this. So that the travel mileage is the next category. We've got 1,000 for it, and then the travel per diem, we've got, or the travel lodging, excuse me, we've got 25, and the travel per diem 800. What do you guys think about those numbers?
How many people are going out of this bucket? Sherry?
Possibly two.
Okay, so mileage is
Pretty
where it
luxurious.
is, and then lodging is high. We can reduce lodging.
What kind of numbers are you thinking about, Michaela?
That's gonna, well, that's.
You
what
and
I'm thinking.
you and
Like,
Sherry know more about you and Sherry know about what's reasonable because of the numbers, the people going
Probably-
way more than the rest of us.
1,600, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Okay,
And per diem, we're not gonna need that much for per diem.
no,
Probably because the conference feeds you, so they feed you.
you
breakfast,
really only
they feed you
have
lunch.
like a meal here and there.
Yeah, so you just need to pay for dinner, pretty much.
Natasha just joined.
Okay, hi Natasha, good to have you.
Hello,
We've been
everyone.
going through items. We've been going through the line items that Sherry yellowed for us. That there's some wiggle room. We're on. Is this the last one that we're getting ready to talk about? The
No.
non-capital equipment. Okay,
No,
we're on
we've got-
non-capital. We're looking at non-capital equipment purchases on page 10, Natasha. We've actually
Okay.
gone through everything up to that, and we'll go over the numbers with you at the very end here and let you know what we took off of each one, and you can comment on that if you like. That would be great.
Okay.
But so we're on page 10 and we're on non-capital equipment purchases. Where are we with that, you guys? Non-capital equipment purchases. 2,500. Are
Well,
we
we were
definitely going to be
still-
making some? Go ahead.
We were at per diem.
Oh,
Oh, we
yeah, we
didn't do
are.
the per diem yet?
We are at per diem. Nope, we
Uh-huh.
didn't.
So
Okay.
I just looked it up. The per diem rate for 2025 is 178 per day. That includes 110 for lodging. It actually depends on where you're at, but that's just the general. But $68 for meals and incidental expenses. So if you consider like a 4-day conference for two people, 68 times 4 times 2, 544. So we could, I don't know, maybe do 550 in that.
That's fine, or just leave it 800. It's such a small amount of money. It's probably not even worth worrying about. Whatever you want to do.
We're squeezing it all out.
All right,
just to
go ahead
catch-
and put 600 down instead of it. Go ahead.
Sorry, just
Go
to
ahead.
catch Natasha up as well. So I received the final numbers from our benefits program people today, and I fed those numbers in, and it changed it to where we were in the black, and now we're in the red, $9,800.
Okay,
So
thank you.
yeah,
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Sherry, for bringing her up to snuff on that, because I should have mentioned that. Yeah, that it was kind of a big change at the beginning of the meeting, Natasha. So
yep.
yeah. So what do you think for the per diem? You guys 600 instead of 800? Want to save $200 there?
I think Michaela said 550. You want to go with 550?
550.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes,
Yep.
And then the non-capital equipment
Okay.
purchases?
Yep.
Did you see?
What do you think,
Jennifer-
Sherry? Or do we want to leave that one? Are we definitely going to need this money in there?
Like I
think-
said, I put them in there just in case, you know, somebody's computer quits or a printer blows up or, you know, something odd happens and we need to make a small purchase, but.
And this page is for downstairs.
And this is just for the operations admin only downstairs. So we left the
Yeah.
operations money in there.
Yep.
And this is operations admin. So if you guys wanna put it
Okay.
in half, you can do it in half.
Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But Jennifer put a comment in the chat. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Bend.
What was the comment? I didn't see it.
There she is, hold
It's
on.
just about the conference. And I just
The
wanna-
conference this year is in Bend in November. It is $211 per person per day.
86 for food and 125 per person or per room. So lodging is 125, meals are 86.
So did we leave enough in there for that?
Jennifer, is this the conference that we usually apply for scholarships for?
Yes, it is.
And we will be applying for the scholarships for whoever goes. I will make sure that happens.
Yeah,
But
so
we
that-
do, like Michaela said, we do have to pay for them and then wait for the reimbursements to come. So, you know, we need to
I
make
think
sure that
we're
we are.
okay. I think we're okay though with the per diem, even though it would be more than that. Because like I said, there are multiple meals that are provided for us. So you're not gonna have people claiming per diem for the full amount.
Right.
So I think we're.
And if we, you know, we could send one instead of two as well, you know, it's
And
just
we're
allowing
probably-
for,
We're gonna get reimbursed for some of them. The problem is that I think you're limited to like a couple scholarships, so it's gonna be up to their discretion to approve additional, which they did for us last year because they knew the situation we were in, but
right.
we'll just have to see.
All right, so Sherry, do you have all the numbers you need for page 10?
I think so. We're leaving the non-capital equipment at 2,500,
What do you think?
or did we decide to go half on that?
Somebody said half, and I thought that's what we were gonna do. For now, we can change it.
Okay,
All right, half, go half, so it's 1250, I guess. My math isn't very good,
1250.
so you guys gotta correct me.
yep,
Okay,
nope, your
all right,
math is good this time. So then now we're going to be on the paratransit, which is page
Yep.
11.
11, and we've got two of them that might have some wiggle room. One is the training conference, again, training conference fees and certificates 700. What do you guys think about that? Is there scholarships for that too?
We don't have.
Well, these are gonna be drivers, so most of their training is going to be online and free. So we could, you know,
zero
probably
it
take
out.
this down to like $100 maybe. For any oddball
Alright.
stuff.
Do we need anything?
right,
in-
let's do
can
that.
We move something later.
I'm sorry?
I said, can we just take it all out? I mean, and move something
Sure.
in there if we need it later?
Yeah. Get rid of that line item. This is what they're doing back in Washington DC right now. Okay, so then we'll go to non-capital equipment purchases. What do you think about that one? 500 for non-capital equipment purchases.
Is that already included in the in operations?
Paratransit and demand response are a different mode of transportation, so.
This is for seats in those cars.
Yeah, I would prefer to leave them with their own.
And what would we
Their own
use it for?
I think you should leave it at 500.
Yeah, it's not a lot and we might need more.
Yeah, it's just for things that they might end up needing to replace here or there, small items. Maybe, you know, replace a seat in a van or,
There's
you know,
more than
there's,
that.
yeah,
in
there's all
wear and
kinds of stuff.
tear and depreciation on.
I mean, they do have all new vans, so
Well,
that's
there's
good.
still
but-
some.
Yeah, so we'll leave that.
I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
I think, let's leave that at 500. I think we've done a great job. I think what we need for Sherry to do now, is just review all of the, what was on the yellow lines from the start to what is now. So Natasha can hear all that. And then when we get to the end of this, we'll have a grand total of how much we cut out.
We still got a couple more categories to go through, Todd.
Oh, we
Call
do.
center. Call center.
Yeah, we've got, demand
We got page
response.
12?
Yes,
Alright.
Yeah,
and
13 and 14.
Launch.
So if-
others.
if you made the paratransit 0, we can also make the demand response 0. But I would leave the equipment at 500 for them as
Alright.
well.
Perfect.
That's good.
And then the call
Alright.
center.
Oh, we
The
already.
call center, we already decided to change the training from, it was 500 to 1,000 to allow for the supervisor, dispatch supervisor to attend a conference.
That's good, yeah.
Alright.
And where's her,
Yep.
mileage and everything gonna come out of and lodging?
Yeah, I didn't have that in there for her, so we would have to probably.
Loan her a van.
We would have to add some lodging and some mileage in here, so what I can do is I can put the total here and then I can break it down, on the actual budget. So
Okay.
do you want to increase
That's fine. What do
this?
you want to add? What do you want to add to that, Sherry, to make sure she's got what she needs?
I'd say probably 800, maybe 800 in lodging and
Yep, 800 and
couple
lodging.
$100 in per diem. So maybe another $1,000.
You're gonna need mileage too, though.
Add that to-
because it's been-
Oh, and mileage, so maybe another 400, 500, 400.
Whatever you guys think's real, that's what we're trying to do here. Whatever's real.
1,500.
She shouldn't get mileage if we're sending her with a van.
Are we sending her with a van?
There's no reason we
We
can't.
we can. I
Well,
mean,
but
we
then
can
we're
use-
paying,
I mean, then we're paying fuel, our own fuel and stuff, but.
I don't know.
What's
Whatever
the
you
why
guys
It is
wanna
a
do.
work trip, so, we're kind of paying anyway.
So do you wanna do like another so do we wanna do $1,500 more, make that 2,500?
Oh,
That's
no, I was
800
thinking just 1,500.
800 for
total.
lodging, 200 for per diem, and then mileage? What do you think?
Well, the conference fee isn't that much,
No,
so I think 1,500 is enough for everything.
Mhm.
Okay?
Very good.
Well, we have-
We'll shift some money over, whatever she needs.
Yeah.
I think it's probably gonna be closer to 2,000, Michaela, cause if you figure 800 for lodging, 200 for per diem, 500 for mileage, that's 1,500 plus 500 for the conference. I mean, max. Do you think, or you wanna,
Listen to the woman.
Yeah,
yeah?
I think you're right. I think,
Yep.
mileage is gonna be a little bit less than it was for us to get to Seaside, but
Well, I think it will be 2, but
Because
if you
this,
wanna do, you
2,000.
wanna do 300 on
2,000.
mileage, we can do that.
let's just say
This was-
2,000. That's fine.
Sherry.
2,000 it is. We're saving money everywhere we've looked so far. We're gonna come in the black, you guys. So let's go back and go through line by line what we've saved, so Natasha's up to speed.
Okay, hold
If
on, we
you
got
would,
one more.
Sherry.
Yeah, we got another.
We got one
Oh, we
more.
do.
We got 2
Yeah.
pages more.
Todd's getting antsy. He's like, let's get it done. So on page 14, we have the appreciation events, which is generally for the drivers, all the employees here. So I just threw 10,000 in there. I think we did 5,000 this year. So we can cut it in half if you want to do that.
Well, I don't wanna do that.
I would
mean,
leave,
Celebrate the
I would
working
leave
people.
8,000. Yeah, I would leave 8,000 in there anyhow. Just take a couple thousand off because we need to get some unity and teamwork established with this whole organization, and we're going to need to spend a little money to have some fun with everybody. I just don't think we should completely decimate that particular part of our expenditures. That's
Yep,
my opinion.
Okay,
I
so
agree.
with all,
I agree.
let's go, we can walk you through this really quickly, Natasha.
What's our number right now? So that as we look through, we don't have to look through again if we need to cut more.
We are to the black, $8,534.
Awesome. Okay,
Good.
That's
Thank
not
you.
a lot. But
it's better
it's
than
in the
red.
black. Yes. So what we did is that's resources, sorry. On the admin tab, we changed the advertising from 5,000, we knocked it down to 2,000. We changed the non-equipment purchase from 5,000 down to 2,000. Recruitment fees went from 1,000 to 500. We left the travel, the lodging mileage and per diem, we left those amounts alone under admin. And then we took the airfare completely out from 3,000 to 0. And then under operations, we took the training and conference fees from 5,000 down to 1,000. And the non-capital purchases, we left it alone. And then under uniforms, Natasha, I had an ask because our drivers need new shirts. So I bumped it up from 1,500 to 2,300.
It's cheaper in the long run.
I didn't do it, they agreed to do that, but that was my ask. And then under operations admin, we knocked down training and conferences from 2,800 to 1,800. We left the mileage alone. We knocked down the lodging from 2,500 to 1,600. We knocked the per diem down from 800 to 550. And we cut the non-capital purchases in half from 2,500 to 1,250.
And
Under the
what was our sum total? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Under paratransit, we took the training and conference fees from 700 to 0. And we left the non-capital equipment purchases alone. The demand response, we did the same thing. We knocked the training conference fees down from 500 to 0, and we left the non-capital equipment purchases alone. And then on the call center, we left the 1,500 under non-capital equipment. And we increased the training and conference fees from 500 to 2,000, but that I'm gonna break that down on the actual budget. I don't have time to do it here tonight. So it's gonna be $800 in lodging, $200 in per diem. $500 in mileage and $500 in training and certificates is what it will end up being. Does that math out? 10, yeah. That's
It
2,000.
did. It mathed.
Okay.
So
Under medical
what we are in the
transportation-
black. Well, okay, go ahead.
Under medical
sorry.
transportations, we cut the events down from 10,000 to 8,000, and then that was it.
Okay.
So what we
And
have in
so-
the black then, you guys, can we put that wherever we want? Like if we do want some more money in some of these areas we cut, we can utilize that. Is that true?
We could do that, Todd, but the goal is to start building some reserve. So anything
Yes.
that's unappropriated is reserve money. So, and take in mind that, you know, our fleet is getting older, not younger. And,
Yep.
the team is looking at areas that we can not cut, but I mean, we might make some minor adjustments to some routes, but we're trying to figure out how we can do some of these routes more efficiently, because looking at them, the Winston area is being serviced by the Winston commuter route, the South County via Winston, and then we have South County direct. And we're not getting like any ridership, hardly at all, but we think that we can, with all three of those, we think that we can better service Winston by, with that South County via Winston, we're looking at how they all overlap. And can we increase like the Winston commuter to pick up a couple extra spots that the via Winston
Yep.
does, and get rid of those on the via Winston? And then if we have the South County direct, can we have them pick up a few little areas on the southern half to still be able to service the community in the same way, but with less vehicles on the road?
Is Chat GPT helping us at all?
No,
Are we using any AI to work on those problems?
no.
I'm just wondering how far behind you are.
Yeah, well, we're behind, so, and we took all of the capital improvements out of it, last meeting, just because, you know, it put us way over. And we have to have a balanced budget to recommend to the board. So the technology, improvements, they are built into the STIF plan, that if we get those additional funds, we can spend that money that way, so we don't necessarily really need to have them in the budget.
Okay,
Because we need to budget for what we know we're gonna get, not what we're hoping to get.
dang,
So, as much as I would like to do that,
because I have so many hopes.
yeah, so we do have those.
So
those,
realistically,
Go ahead, Todd.
I was gonna say realistically, we may save some gas money. We may save some fuel money with these route changes too. I mean, we may actually save quite a bit. As expensive as fuel is, we could probably save $1,000 or $2,000 just on changing the routes up the way you're talking about, Sherry. We're not anticipating that, but that could very well
We are
happen.
anticipating some pretty decent savings, but we don't know what that looks like. We don't know how much of a change is gonna be made and what kind
Yeah.
of public process that will have to go through. If, you know, if it ends up being, you know, more considerable than what we thought, but we're trying to continue to service the area the same way we are, just more efficiently. So Andre and George and I have been working on it together, along with Nakia. So
Good.
Nakia is now, the two supervisors were put back into the driver pool, and we flew a new lead position down in operations, and Nakia, who has been one of our very longtime drivers, after going through the interview process, was the one that was selected. And she has a lot of great knowledge because she's driven these routes for years. And so her input has been huge for us in understanding how things are being driven, and if we even, I mean, we do have tracking systems in place, so we do know what kind of ridership we're getting, like from 8 a.m. to, you know, on the first run of the day. We know, are we picking up 1 passenger or are we picking up 10 passengers? So if in the event we do make some changes, we want to have the least amount of impact to the community. So we are taking all of that into consideration, but it is going to take us some time. If we're going to make a change, we want to make it right, and we have to figure out what the process looks like for the public.
I would really like to look at a student from the college who is doing AI training the actual AI, and see if we could pay them in credits. You know, they would cut the cost of their college, and they enjoy doing what they're doing. I really like working with those people. And a computer can see things you can't see.
Yes.
When you
Well,
feed the data in, it's crazy what it comes
we
back.
have a
to tell
system
you.
called Remix, and nobody really had access to it before, and we now have access to it. And Remix is exactly a tool for doing that, where you can plug in your stops and your times, and it will map it all out for you, and it helps you do a lot of this. So we are working
Good
with
to
that
know.
system.
Just me not being quiet.
No, it's okay.
Well-
That's a good suggestion, Kat.
I think it's really encouraging to hear and to know from being on this board this long, this short amount of time, but to hear and to know that we have really good personnel in the really important slots. And I think that's what this organization really needs is that foundation. And once we get our legs under us, we're going to start developing some income that none of us really know what that's going to look like. But if that happens,
I got
we're going to be
plans.
shining.
I got plans.
Okay, there
Todd.
you go.
Yep,
All
from my
right.
very first conference.
Yeah, so we just
Yep.
don't know what those savings are gonna look like. We have no idea, what the process will look like, how long it will take to be able to make changes.
Yeah.
Like everything else with the government, we have to go through a public process if we're gonna be making significant changes, so we just don't know what it all looks like. So if we can at least get a budget in the black and make some, these recommendations, then hopefully along the way, we will be able to create some additional savings and start building some reserves.
Beautiful.
So
So
that we
how many,
can-
what are we going to have for reserves right now? What will our reserves be under the current agreed upon numbers?
$8,534. That is it.
All the
Is
stuff we
everybody-
trimmed off of those yellow spots.
Yeah. Is everybody happy with that? Can we actually take care of this tonight? Does anybody feel like we need more discussion on any of this? If so, let's have it.
I mean,
Well,
I
I'm
think,
not happy with the reserve.
agreed,
Yeah.
agreed with, that's
And-
exactly what I was about to say, Michaela. But I also don't see areas to cut.
And I already said where I want to see the cuts. I don't think it will hurt them to give up a couple of thousand or 20,000 so that we could pay off the debts faster.
Who's them?
Them would be, one of these three, Ben,
George,
George, yeah, that, I'm not saying that we have to cut them, it would be nice. But, you could save a lot of money and you wouldn't be sending it to Portland. It doesn't stay in the community, and the community people don't get to decide where their money is going. We make that decision. Everybody in the county, in the entire county that gets a W-2 pays in to this service for our community, and we're sending over $200,000 to Portland. And that is not what I consider sustainable. And I just brought it up and I just put it out there, and that's how I feel, that I'm not happy with just barely being in the black, and we still owe the state money. And we don't have a plan for stopping the hemorrhage, which I consider it a hemorrhage. And I use strong words, I know, I'm not always nice when I talk. I've been very good actually tonight. So I just want to be clear.
I agree, Kat. I appreciate your comments and all that we can say at this committee meeting tonight, and the board itself, as we consider the suggestions of this budget committee. All we can say is duly noted. I mean,
Okay.
that's about all. That's
'Cause I'm
about all
not
there is.
saying- Not saying who we're hiring or whatever, but where are we making cuts and where can we make cuts? And though that's reality, that is reality.
Yep.
Okay,
I agree. And your
And you
input's
guys can all
important,
vote
and
to adjourn.
we appreciate you being here.
you can all
What's that?
vote to adjourn now if you like.
we actually
Well, are
have
you
to
guys ready
vote.
to do that? Are you guys ready to make a motion to accept the budget as amended with the amount of reserve that we have come up with? Is everybody good with that? Are we ready to make a motion?
I would vote nay. But you all vote.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion, or would we like to have more discussion, you guys?
I think we can make a motion and have more discussion too.
That's true. Once we
Yes.
get a second, if we can get a second.
We are just not the commissioners. We
Well,
can do that.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Nobody's
one.
made a
I'm waiting for a
motion.
Okay.
motion.
I was like, second, I think we're missing a step.
So who
Well,
wants to make?
I'm
a
supposedly
motion to
chairing this
accept
meeting, so I am not making this vote.
No, nope, you're not. Good move.
You guys have a different option in mind? Anybody? Nobody's making a motion. Do we want to do it? We
What?
can discuss this more after we have an emotion,
Yeah, I
motion in a
think-
second, but we can discuss it now.
I think
Whatever.
I think you put the options on the table, either go forward with the motion, or if somebody express an interest in doing some further analysis, one or the other. But
Yep.
and I'm waiting to hear if anybody else wants to do some more thorough elaboration, or go with what we've done tonight. And is there anybody out there that wants to do some more analysis? I mean, I'll just ask that question, and if they do, that's fine. Let's talk about it.
Yep.
If there's not any interest in that, then I'll be glad to make a motion to accept what we've established tonight as the budget.
Can I get a second?
I'd make a counter motion.
Okay, that's good.
We
that
don't, we, okay. Go ahead, Kat.
Okay, just that we could adjourn this evening and come back, and after we think about it, we could have a 5-10 minute meeting and pass a budget.
My only question, the only thing I was gonna ask if the previous motion had a second was, is it a real conversation to have? Is it a real thing for this budget committee to have a conversation about salaries of the existing staff? Cause if not, I think that means something.
I don't believe it's off the table.
I mean, you're
The-
just
the
making
existing-
recommendations to the board
Yeah.
and the board makes
The board's gonna
final-
vote on it,
Yeah.
so they can make the decision if we decide to cut the salaries. If we make an offer to cut the salaries and they come out with a counter offer, it's always a possibility. Just because we had yellow slots
Right.
doesn't mean that those are the only places that we can talk.
That's correct. I just highlighted the ones I knew we absolutely could discuss and had. wiggle.
And I was pretty sure we could discuss those. And we did, and I think we can leave here and think about it. And come back on Monday. I think Monday is the earliest we could, right?
Well, we
Yeah.
need to consider when we need to have this
that's-
finalized for our budget hearing. So
We got a
Sherry,
whole
what
month.
is the deadline for that? Because we already have moved out the next board meeting in order to accommodate that budget hearing. So,
So if we don't finalize this tonight and we go to like a Monday or Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday is gonna be our latest time.
yeah. The main question I think is, and I think we should probably just have this conversation now, and because if it's just about those, and can you go back to that screen where we're talking about these salaries? If we are not majority in agreement with cutting, then we're not going to make that change on Monday either. So I don't see the purpose in delaying it. So I think we need to decide
Yeah.
right now whether
Yeah.
or not we are wanting to cut these things. So I mean, Kat, you could make a motion to make a suggestion to change those numbers if you want, or we can informally have a discussion about it. But if that's what's tying us up here, I think we just need to come to a decision about whether the majority believes we should cut that or not. But, I said earlier, and I'll say it again, we are not, these are not competitive prices for salaries for these positions. And we are already having difficulty attracting talent that we can afford at the numbers that they are right now. So that's the difficulty when you're on the hiring side of, looking for people to fill those positions. It's difficult to attract talent at that level.
Well, the questions that I heard were, why do we need two people to do the job in Portland? So.
Those are two totally different jobs. And then the other thing that you have to consider is we've renamed some of the jobs, but we had an operations manager before, HR manager. There were some combining of salaries and moving positions and moving responsibilities when the realignment took place. So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I think it's a matter of we have an organizational diagram that was changed, like Michaela was saying. That was one of the things that we did when we were going through the compliance issues and trying to figure out exactly who we needed to have over that and what skill sets we needed. And George was brought in, but he's still taking care of compliance issues and many other issues too. But the organizational chart changed in a couple. So we actually lost a couple positions and created one. Those were decisions that the board made already. Those decisions have already been made. So really, if we're talking about a budget committee, Kat, I would say that the question is, if you want to make a motion to cut the salaries of particular executives, then I would say I'm good to entertain that motion. And if it gets seconded, we can vote on that and just eliminate that problem, tonight. There's no reason we need to think about it. I don't believe that I personally would be interested in reducing anybody's salaries. I think everybody's underpaid. But that's my personal opinion, and we can certainly vote on it. Would you like to make a motion to cut the salaries of any of these officers in particular, Kat?
I don't think I can do that unilaterally. I want some thoughtful process about how long we're going to be sending that money to Portland.
but that's not a decision for the budget committee to make. That's the problem, is we're just talking about what to fund.
Yeah, and
Just-
I'm so confused about what the budget committee does. So, you guys can just vote to do what you want to do, and I will vote no. Because that's my feeling, and you can do what you want, and it's time to get the heck out of here.
Why don't you suggest, Kat? Why don't you specify? Because right now the thing you're suggesting, really, I have no idea exactly what you want to do, what you'd like to do as a person on this committee.
I would like us to build the bigger buffer with making a reduction in one or both of the salaries. And I'm not that kind of a person that knows what the salaries are, and the board has already made a decision. But as a budget committee person, I would say there's room to cut there. And that's just my position, and it's valid. But it isn't that I'm saying we gotta fire somebody. I'm not saying we gotta fire somebody. We should have a plan for how long we're gonna do it. And that is part of the budget committee, is to make projections.
Well, we have to have a
So
general
you're talking about
manager.
the two people that live in Portland. You're talking about the two people that live in Portland, and the reason for the cuts is because they are not paying taxes in Douglas County. How much would you like to cut off of those two salaries?
I'd like to see them both at 99,000. And that's just off the top of my head. I've done no research. I have no reason to whatever. And I would like to see a sunset. I want to see when we're going to not have to pay that money. In total, that double amount. I want to know when we're gonna have somebody who can do those jobs and that lives here. I think we should
But
have a goal.
so Kat, the problem is that, okay, let's say George and Ben are no longer here anymore, which is whatever. That's not a decision for the budget committee to make. How much are we going to pay somebody that lives here? This should not be looked at as a person. This isn't a person that we're looking at. We're looking at a bucket of money that's allocated for a certain position. So whether they live, doesn't matter where they live. That's irrelevant. It's how much money does it cost to pay somebody for that position? That's the conversation
I think,
that we're
I think
having.
it's bigger than that, hon. It's that we got a responsibility to keep the money in the community.
And I understand
Because-
that you're saying that, but it's not a decision for the budget committee. So we have to operate in our zone right here, which is how much money does it take to fund that position? That's really the only question that we're being asked as a budget committee. How much does it cost to have a CEO? How much does it cost to have a compliance manager? How much does that cost? And that's what we're trying to figure out here.
Personally, I'll tell you the truth. I think that Sherry's salary for what she's doing is low. I actually do. In fact, I think all of these salaries for what these people are actually doing. I've watched what George is doing. I mean, we're the board. We're talking to these people. We're watching. I think all these salaries are low. If you want to know the truth, and I don't care where they live. It makes no difference to me. What makes a difference to me personally is what job are they doing, and what are they contributing to UPTD? And I think all these people at the top are doing a great job, and probably all of them are underpaid. That's my opinion, Kat. And I would love to save money. Like you, I think we all would love to save like 50 grand really easy off of, but you know what? We got to have the talent to make this organization run. And everybody's running on empty as far as I'm thinking when I'm looking at all these salaries.
So,
Yeah.
so a quick Google search, and that's all I'm basing this on. So I just want to clarify that. Average client compliance manager for, I did say manager, maybe that changes things. For Roseburg, Oregon is 90,000. Same for executive directors. And I know the title is CEO, but this is, so CEO is, gets muddy. And then chief financial officer, that one, it depends on credentials. It 100% depends on what Sherry's degrees in. There's like 75 different criteria. So I don't have an informed decision, or Google, I should clarify, Google doesn't have an informed decision for that.
If you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hey, yeah, one of the things that we did when we came in is we cut the executive team from 5 people to 3, and we saved about $60,000, if I remember right off my top of my head, with the current payment structure that's in place. And that can carry a $16,000 a year raise because she's valuable. And I think that the lighthouse here is that, especially in the last 6 months, has been keeping transit available to the citizens of Roseburg. And when you're thinking about that, you got to think about the situation that the district was in, and you had to bring in good talent. And that's exactly what the board did. So, but the big point that I want to make to you is that we cut the administrative team, the executive team, from 5 individuals to 3, so that those 3 can do the job of the previous 5. So, that kind of responsibility. So, just so you know, you guys have no business making that decision in this meeting, and it's a waste of time to discuss it. But I wanted to just let you know that, because it didn't sound like to me that you're aware of that fact.
I think I would say this. Would we need to end the meeting here tonight? We've already gone over. So if we want to put together, maybe have Sherry put together all of our new numbers for us and send that out where we can look at them. We've already looked at them together. But if we want to do that and we want to have one more meeting, it's going to be a time crunch. But if you guys want to vote to go that way, I'm fine with that. The other option is to go ahead and make the motion that I asked for earlier and second it and vote on it and actually call this a passed budget and move this thing ahead. We can do either one, but we're into the 2-hour zone right now. So just so you guys know.
Yeah, I second that. I don't see what other choice we have on this budget. I mean, we went over it and got it.
Well, Todd can't make the motion.
So I'll make a
Oh,
motion to
no.
accept
I'll
the
second
budget
it.
what we got.
I'll second Greg's motion.
Okay, I have a motion, and from Greg, and I have a second from John, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, let's take a vote. Who is in favor of passing this budget out of this budget committee in the numbers that we've agreed upon tonight? Say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Who is opposed to passing this budget tonight?
No,
Anybody opposed? Say nay.
I'm opposed.
No nays? Okay,
I
one nay.
am.
Okay.
Pat's a nay.
I'm gonna
John,
slap you.
Jim, I didn't hear your
Okay.
response.
I agree.
You agree? Okay, so we have one,
Okay,
we have
so the
four.
yeas have it. What do we got? Four yeas? One nay?
Natasha,
I'm
I
not
don't
even sure
think I
who's.
heard you.
I was an aye.
You were
Nay.
an.
Two-
a
Two
yes?
days.
No.
No,
Is that?
she was a. She was an aye.
Okay, you guys.
Somebody let's tabulate
This-
the.
I am
the
so
votes.
confused. Do we have all?
Six
yes,
people have
and-
voted yes, and one
Okay.
person voted no.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love technology. Okay, you
Yeah.
guys, is that recorded then? Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so the
Thank you,
meeting's being
guys.
adjourned then at 7:21 PM? Yes.
Perfect.
7:21 PM. We are adjourning the Budget Committee meeting for the 25-26 budget. Thank you guys for participating in this.
For
Thank
the
you.
record, it's 8:21 where I am. Bye.
Oh.